right, let's reconvene for the regular meeting of June 18th, 2012, Douglas County Board of Education. And we'll begin with student and staff recognitions. What's it? Did I say 2013? June 18th. Okay. June 18th, 2013. And we are going to start with student and staff recognitions. And I'll ask, let's see, Director Mendoza to join the superintendent.
All right, welcome everyone. The Board of Education is always proud to recognize the achievements of our students and staff in the Douglas County School District. This spring we're celebrating several championship performances by our student athletes, including a 5A girls soccer win in overtime by Mountain Vista High School and a come-from-behind victory by the Thunder Ridge baseball team. But tonight we celebrate several great victories we had in track and field specifically. So if we could have Tanner Townsend of Castle View High School and Kelsey Lindeman of Rock Canyon High School please come forward. Okay, you guys have to stay here so we can talk about you and with you. All right. During the 5A Colorado Track and Field Championships held last month at Jeffco Stadium in Lakewood, Kelsey came in first place in the shot put with a distance of 40 feet, 10 inches, and a quarter. Now, I heard that the quarter was super important. What about that?
Well, the girl that got second threw 40 feet, 10 inches. So, I mean, that quarter of an inch got me the championship, so.
So kind of vital. So congratulations, that's amazing. Very well done. Meanwhile, Tanner won the 400-meter dash with a time of 47.23 seconds. Was that 2-3 the winning distance difference? No. I just thought I'd check. I thought maybe we had something going on here, but that's good. Tanner also had several second place finishes, including the 100-meter dash and the 200-meter dash. A third student, Connor Turnage, who wasn't able to make it tonight, won the triple jump and came in second place in the long jump. Both Tanner and Connor were named to the 2013 All-Colorado Boys Track and Field Team. Congratulations. So congratulations to both of you and all of our student athletes. And is there anything you want to add to anything I said about your performance? No? You're not a public speaker kind of guy? No, just a runner. Yeah, okay. I understand. Well, we're glad you're a runner. Congratulations, and congratulations to you and all your fine performance. Thank you very much. Okay, you can't leave because we want a picture, so. That's all right. Good. So let's have an extra round of applause for students who came on their summer vacation so that we could honor them. Congratulations to both of you again. And that concludes our recognitions for tonight.
Okay, we have the superintendent reports is the next item on the
Thank you. I'd like to introduce Mr. Bill Moffitt, who is going to present the board with the Master Capital Plan. Hopefully you have, I believe you all have in your packet, a full color document. Bill and his team always do a phenomenal job providing a tremendous amount of data and research and collaboration with the Long Range Planning Committee on this Master Capital Plan. So, Mr. Bill Moffitt, Chief Operating Officer, you're all for you.
Mr. President, board members, Dr. Fagan. On behalf of the Operations Department and the Long Range Planning Committee, we thank you for the opportunity to present this year's Master Capital Plan. This presentation summarizes our capital needs over the next 5 years. Tonight we'll discuss capital reinvestment. Do the slides. This year we'll discuss capital reinvestment for our schools to extend the life and to make them safer. Technology, equipment, and infrastructure, and buses and a support fleet. We'll also discuss growth and enrollment, new construction needs for capacity and programming and capacity alternatives other than construction. For 78 schools, we have a significant inventory of buildings that need to be, we need to reinvest in our facilities, which is increasing each year as our buildings age.
For our schools and our support facilities, we currently have $134 million in capital reinvestment needs to replace building components which may fail over the next 5 years. Now, this is a $30 million increase in our reinvestment needs from last year's master capital plan. Of this, we have $16 million for needed repairs that, if not completed in the next 5 years, could potentially cause an interruption to our educational programs. These include key components like certain mechanical and electrical systems and key structural and roofing components. We also have $14 million in building repairs that are needed for components that impact safety for students and staff. These types of systems include fire alarms, fire sprinklers, and intercom and security systems. This is a breakout of the reinvestment needs geographically, and this slide also highlights those reinvestment needs for charter schools as well as our support facilities. In the 5th year of our master capital plan in 2017, our schools can be broken out or grouped into 3 general categories. First, for those schools less than 15 years that are in relatively good shape. Second, those schools that were built in 1996 which have had some remodel work that still have more remodeling now that are again due. And last, those schools that are constructed between 1996 and 2001 which have never had any significant remodel work. That last group are the schools that would have been covered in the 2008 and 2011 bonds. So based on the last October count, and including charter schools, we have almost 60% of our students attending schools which need some type of repairs. Preschool classrooms also continue to be in need district-wide. On average, we add 1 new preschool classroom in each of the planning areas, so 3 new preschool classrooms a year. Now, for this reason, we've included in our master capital plan a new early childhood center somewhere in Highlands Ranch, a new early childhood center in Parker, and in addition to the early childhood center here in Castle Rock. For capacity, we've included, in addition to Castle View High School, the school is already experiencing growth issues. It's projected to grow by over 250 kids in the next 5 years, and it's the only high school of its design that hasn't already received the major FPOT addition. I also want to add that it's a great success that in this year's master capital plan, you do not see a need for a new school, either a new elementary school or a middle school, and that's because of the great partnership we have with charter schools. Specifically, for Aspen View Academy in the Meadows and American Academy Charter in Parker, and their location is key to help mitigate our capacity needs in the short term, in the next 5 years. This slide shows all of our capital needs. Besides the reinvestment needs shown in yellow and the new construction required to meet capacity needs and programming purposes, we've included $4 million for security upgrades, and specifically for additional cameras and deterrence measures. For transportation, we've included vehicle replacement to support our fleet of 335 buses and 138 support vehicles. On average, our buses are 10 years old, and we do have some buses that are 24 years old. For transportation requirements, for technology requirements, we've included hardware rotation for servers and data storage devices, upgrades and repairs to switches and wireless access points, and infrastructure to support choice and world-class education. The 5-year projections show significant growth this next year. However, in the next 4 years, that rate of growth is slower and is declining. There are 2 reasons for this. First, we do have neighborhoods in our district that are mature. Historically, older neighborhoods have less kids than newer residential developments. And second, residential development has been in a lull basically since 2008. And a key part of our 5-year projections is building permits, and the building permits have been down for several years now. However, I do want to add that as of late, a lot of developers are changing their price points, changing their densities, changing their mixes of units, getting rid of the golf courses, and they're submitting back to the authorities having jurisdiction for replats and approvals. Typically in a month, we'll meet 3 to 4 developers that meet with us so we can coordinate our needs for future dedicated sites so they can submit to the county or the cities for approval. For example, last month, we met with the Anthology developer in Parker. So just today, we got the formal referral for Anthology North and Anthology South. There's 6,000 homes. Just that single development will generate 1 new high school, 1 new middle school, and 4 new elementary schools. That's Anthology. It's in the Ponderosa feeder. We've also had similar meetings this last month with the Canyons, just north of here, with Canyon South just to the west, and with Crystal Valley Ranch to the south. And even today with Franktown Village. So a lot of developers are re-engaging now that the economy is getting better. So while these 5-year projections may give the impression that we're okay capacity-wise, we are in the short term for 5 years, but we believe in the next 5 to 10 years, because of the building permits and the residential development, we'll be back in the mode of having capacity issues. So right now, we're basically in a low point or a valley of the development curve. To some extent, and in no particular priority order, we do have alternatives that we can implement in lieu of new construction to meet our capacity issues. We also have options to address schools which may be under capacity and thus underutilized. The Long Range Planning Committee evaluated these options, and every year the committee will look at the actual enrollment and the projections and focus on the schools that are over 95% program capacity and under 65% program capacity, and evaluate and assess and make recommendations for consideration. A flow chart with these options is included in the master capital plan. In summary, our total capital needs have actually decreased since last year's master capital plan, in large part because of our partnership with charter school to meet our short-term needs for capacity, and because development has been in the low. And while we're continuing to address our critical capital reinvestment needs through the prudent use of limited remaining bond and capital funds, our reinvestment needs have increased $30 million this past year and will continue to do so as our buildings age. And last, we do believe that 5 to 10 years with residential development, we will have capacity issues and growth issues. And this concludes our presentation. Are there any questions?
Mr. Larson.
Well, first of all, as the board member who goes to your meetings with the group, I want to commend both of you and the chair of the committee, Todd Warnke, who's sitting in the audience, and of course, the entire committee itself for the work that it's put in over the last several months to have this capital plan. When we met in the fall, we talked about taking last year's plan document itself and adding some additional depth in terms of priorities and what we need. Not just quantifying all the needs, but quantifying the priorities of needs, and I think that step's been taken here. There has been a lot of discussion on the committee as to, at some point, once we identify, we turn it back to the board, and the board has to decide what we're going to do with this information. And at the retreat in December, I think we got a flavor of some of the discussions that were going, and I think that group is still going to continue looking ahead with this foundation at being prepared for all the ways that we can address how we go forward. Question on that, when you talk about Anthology and any other new developments of Sterling Ranch that we have, I mean, there's those charts can wildly change based on the development that comes in. So the question I have is when such things happen and new property value is created, and we've got existing levies that would come into play and presumably generate more revenue, are the bonds that we already have in terms of, or this might be a question for Bonnie as well as anybody else here, when that happens, is that going to automatically, all the levies that are currently being applied throughout the district, or are we restricted to a total amount that's collected toward debt and have that spread among more value that's contributed, or does those new property values create additional revenue from which we might have the capacity to do the building of the schools that would be needed for those communities?
I believe the latter, but I don't want to answer that.
Just to clarify the question, you're asking that as we grow, does that provide additional revenue for us because we have more taxpayers to
Well, if
contribute to the district budget?
As these developments grow and say create 6,000 new homes, and, each with 300,000 of value, so whatever that, 18 million or 180, I can't remember, in value, then applying the current, the levies that are paid, including a portion of which is debt service reduction, would that then, that mill that's applied for the debt, be additional revenue that's coming in that then give us capacity, or do we have to go and?
Yeah, we'd have to go out again. The mill rate is set. So the mill rate for the School Finance Act is set. We have a straight dollar amount, the $33,713 amount for our milling override.
That's on the override.
On the override, and then our debt service, of course, fluctuates as the pursuant to our existing GO debt, but we are allowed to levy how much we need because we've already had approval for those. So as we get more assessed value, the actual rate will go down, and that same principal and interest per household will go down.
Now, the base 25.44, that would still apply then to any of the new homes.
Right, so then more money would be coming from the local taxpayer instead of from state coffers.
Okay. I'm just trying to get a gist of, so all of this new value that's created it doesn't just bring, unless then, so in order, if we have to build a new school to serve those homes, we actually have to go to the community and.
We have to go out and
And get
invest
that
it.
again.
That's correct.
Thank you. And if that, I guess that kind of makes one of my follow-ups a little moot, because I was wondering if the revenues generated, which are non-additional, were sufficient, so that's pretty obvious. What about a lag in terms of timing when a new development gets plotted? How much time until there's actually families with students that, and then at what point does the new school get necessitated? And at what time do you gradually fill, especially if it's in Ponderosa where there might be some room temporarily, how much room is there and how quickly do we have to have a new school based on the pace of the growth?
In particular, for Ponderosa, we do have capacity for several years, actually, because some of that development has slowed over time. Basically, when a development is created, for example, Anthology, once it gets approval, probably in 16, 17, it would start construction. And about a year after that, certificates of occupancy, it would be occupied. So basically about 7 years, 6 to 7 years. And we would have the dedicated school sites, which we could request, and within 30 days, by ordinance, we will get them as needed, if and when we got design and construction funds. And for a high school, for example, I would say basically 3 to 4 years from design to opening construction. For an elementary school, it's basically 2 summers after a November timeframe is when we get open to school. So that's the general timeframe.
So even if these, so the soonest we're going to see any of these new developments generate a new school is at the fringe,
Is 5 to 10 years.
right up after the period we're talking about.
It's beyond this master
But
plan.
it's something to keep in mind that we've got these forces, probably growth reoccurring.
Growth is coming back, and I do want to say that we're seeing a different mix of development. And so the student generation could be far different than when we were growing so fast and large in the 90s. There were more of a single-family profile at that point, so there's a different mix of development coming to meet different price points, and I think that's to mitigate some risk as developers move forward. So I expect that the pace might be a little quicker than in the past, just because of the mix of development.
Well, thanks. I didn't want that growth to overshadow what's the bulk, the relevant parts of this document. I think we have a basis here, but I think we have to think going forward with a mind toward how are we going to address these capital needs down the road. I think we've got to keep our eye on the ball, and the committee's going to keep its eye on the ball so that we can continue having some discussion and dialogue how we handle these needs.
Well, I'd like to thank your leadership on the committee to help improve the quality of this product.
All right, any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much.
I believe the rest of our items are later on in the agenda under study action, so that will conclude the superintendent's reports for tonight.
Okay. I will move on to board reports.
We just got one.
You got,
A lot of me just gave you.
oh, okay. Any other board reports? All right, under president reports, I'll just make a general comment about information we'll be putting out shortly on teacher retention. There's been much disinformation put out over the last several weeks by various groups and picked up by the media about the supposed high number of teachers leaving Douglas County for other school districts. When the actual numbers come in and teacher contracts are renewed by the end of June, the community will see a very different picture. For example, we will be seeing this school district actually hiring far more teachers from surrounding school districts than are leaving this school district for those districts. So it's actually completely the opposite of the fabrications that have been put out there by various groups. We're also going to have some tremendous numbers of contract renewals, and we are going to be showing the disinformation on certain schools that were reported in the media. For example, Denver Post reported 18 teachers leaving Saddle Ranch. It's going to be 10, and half of those are actually retirements. Reported that 31 teachers were going to be leaving Thunder Ridge High School. It's actually 12, which is 12% of 101 teachers. And so, we'll be getting the actual facts out there. We'll see if the media is actually interested in picking them up. I also want to once again commend our financial CFO and financial staff for their strong budgeting in the school district. I read this week to contrast us with another school district in the country actually run under the control of the American Federation of Teachers. This is Philadelphia, where this year, because of their resistance to reforms, the school district will be laying off 19% of the teachers and other employees. 19% of that school district's teachers will be laid off. Here in Douglas County, due to the strong fiscal management, we're able to give teachers up to 9% pay increases and benefit increases. I also note for the record that there was a protest when these layoffs were announced, led by the president, ironically, the president of the American Federation of Teachers, Randy Weingarten, who was arrested during the demonstration. So that's a fine example of leadership for our community. The next item on the agenda is public comment. So I believe we have four individuals who'd like to speak in public comment tonight. And we ask for 2 minutes each. And I think we've been doing pretty good in terms of respecting other speakers during public comments, so I'm not going to read the statement tonight. I just ask folks to stick to the 2 minutes, and we'll start with Dave Usacek from Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Board. My name is Dave Huschak, 12713 Buckhorn Creek Street, Parker. I'm a non-parent taxpayer. I'm upset and I'm tired. I'm tired of the phone calls. I'm tired of the flyers at my door from both sides trying to justify their position on the issues. I'm tired of reading negative articles in the local newspapers countering each other. I'm tired of the lawsuits. For the sake of the education of our youth, it is time for both sides to sit down and resolve the issues that exist between the two groups. It is your responsibility as elected representatives of taxpayers to provide the leadership and take the steps necessary to bring this school district back to providing the education that it was known for. I'm not inferring that you are wrong on your stance on issues, and I'm not saying they are wrong. What I am saying is the conflict has gone on too long, and compromises need to be made and explored to settle the issues. What is happening is fracturing this school district. Local politics is the last form of pure representation that voters have at the city level, at the school board level. Having served as an elected official in the city where I came from, I didn't know what political party my council members were from. I didn't care. I was there to support taxpayers. I hope you let me continue. You may think that you truly believe that what you are doing is for the right of the students. It is impacting kids in a negative way, though. I've spoken to kids in my neighborhood, and they are confused, just like I am. What is right, what is wrong out there? I heard some data today that surprised me, because I thought it was 4% instead of 9%. So what is the truth? You have the opportunity to be the good guys and demonstrate leadership, offering an olive branch to open discussions with staff and resolve the issues before the start of the new school year, so that our kids can come back to the schools without the morale issues that exist. There's been a lot of data, surveys, statistics thrown out. I don't care about that, because everyone knows you can manipulate that data to achieve the outcomes that you want. Quit confusing taxpayers and tackle the issues confronting you and do the job you're elected to do for the sake of the students and not, how should I say this, what a political party wants you to do. Let's bring Douglas County back to what it's known for and not the media circus that it has become. I have 2 granddaughters going to be starting in the system in a couple years. I hope they don't have to go to private schools because of the chaos that has been created. I believe in public education and support it. Compromise needs to be part of everyone's, both sides, vocabulary. Thank you.
Okay, Nona reminds me that I need to read this statement this evening. If anyone wants to make public comment on the No Child Left Behind Act, a summary of the district's proposed uses of federal No Child Left Behind NCLB grant funds is provided as a handout at tonight's board meeting and electronically as an attachment to agenda item number 24. At this time, the Board of Education would invite any comments regarding the district's application for 2013-2014 No Child Left Behind funds. So the next speaker I have on the list is Sharcy Russell from Castle Rock.
Good evening, I'm Sharcy Russell. The June 5th lead Denver Post editorial headline read, "DEDCO Teacher Plan Innovative." It said, "We do believe the district is on the right track." Continuing, it said, "What sets Douglas County apart is the comprehensive nature of its model." It noted that, quote, "No one was being asked to take a pay cut." We believe the district's concept of teacher evaluations is sound. We also believe that it's a work in process, that it is a beginning, that it will be a process. None of us are content that schools be widget factories with widget teachers and widget students. We must be innovative in many ways. Now we want to continue the work of that process with our teachers planning with our administrators as how to best build new and effective ways of doing teacher evaluations. Change is not easy. It comes with uncertainty. However, it is worth uncertainty to thoughtfully, respectfully find our way to a better means of evaluating the results of our labors. We are grateful for the hard work of our district staff and that of our teachers in this important effort, and we commend you all. Thank you for your continued innovation for global education and for your strong support for charter schools and school choice.
All right, we have Roger Bianco from Castle Pines. Roger's not here. All right, we have Gary Colley from Parker.
I appreciate very much this first speaker that spoke tonight. I've never met the gentleman, but the things he said are things consistent with what we've asked for over 2 years. So I also thank you for extending this time to talk. I will shoot for being done within 2 minutes. I have a document that I'm going to leave with Nona, and I'll just ask for you to read it because it's going to give you more detail to what I'm going to try to fit into 2 minutes here on the conversation. But I'm going to start this with a question. Why doesn't the school district have a board member sign for community relations? There was a time when you had a board member serving in that capacity, although limited. Now you have one for student advisory group, for government relations. Why not community relations? There's some subpoints here that you need to read on your own, but we believe, we teach the children does, that currently there's no apparent process or system in place within Douglas County to provide the checks and balance to ensure the best interests of the Douglas County community are being addressed. Therefore, we recommend the immediate formation of a Douglas County Community Accountability Group. I know you have a district accountability group, but that's an advisory group, so you should change that middle word in their title. Also, membership in this group would be to perform as the checks and balance for operations of the school district. And though a district committee membership would not be determined by board or leadership team selection. We ask for your open and transparent discussion in regard to this recommendation. However, if you as a district will not move forward to form this type of a group by the next school board meeting, then the community will begin to take the actions on this themselves, perhaps on a feeder area level. But board members, Justin's my representative, needs to be accountable for the parts of the community you serve. And we're going to ask you to begin doing that, or the community is going to take a more active stand in that regard. I like that smile, Justin. Have a good night.
All right, I'm gonna hold the record open for the rest of the evening if there's anyone who would like to comment on the No Child Left Behind Day. I will now have make a motion to accept the agenda. Do I have a second? Motion by Carson, seconded by Mendoza. Is Benevento on the line? Benevento? Carson, aye. Larson?
Aye.
Mendoza? Aye. Williams?
Aye.
All right, the agenda is accepted. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yes.
We're-
Okay.
Okay, we have 12 items on the consent agenda. Those are typically non-controversial items. Do any of the board members have any questions or staff about those? All right. We will go ahead and, I'll go ahead and make a motion to adopt the consent agenda. Do I have a second? Motion by Carson, seconded by Williams. Benevento.
Aye.
Carson, aye. Larson? Aye. Mendoza? Aye. Williams?
Aye.
Okay, now we have the action items for the evening, and the first one is the World Campus Academy Charter School application.
I'd like to invite Mr. Pat McGraw, who is our Innovation and Development Officer, to come forward. He has a couple items here, both World Campus Academy Charter School application and Global Village Academy Charter School application, and he will be updating the board on both of those tonight.
Good evening. I'd also like to introduce Kendra Whitmire. Kendra is the Director of Charter School Partnership. She's been working with me since the onset when I came to this position about 5 years ago. So a couple things I'd like to talk about. When we started this strategic plan, one of the things that we had talked about was within the Choice Task Force was taking this process and reviewing this process and doing it in a little bit different fashion. As a part of that, we've come to a common application that aligns with national and state standards. But we also went last October and requested to the board that we move the charter application process from the fall to the spring. Primarily because we found that when schools came in, it was very difficult for them to go through the application process and then be able to open the next August and do the things that we would like to do with that. The board approved that. We took it before the state board. It was approved at that level. And we have just completed our first spring application window. From here on out, we won't have the fall application window. Rather, we'll look to do the window in the spring with schools opening in the subsequent year in order to do that. And I'd like Kendra Whitmire to talk a little bit about the process then that we did this spring.
Yeah, testing. Is that on? So the process for the spring cycle was just the same as the fall, just the timing was different. So Our intent to turn in application forms were due March 1st, so we were at least alerted to how many applications we would get. The actual applications were due on March 15th. So as soon as we got those, we sent them to departments so they can review each component in their area of expertise. When we got the feedback, we went ahead and sent it to the applicants so they can see how they scored in each component. And then Pat and I also met with each applicant team so they knew what to expect at the meeting tonight.
Following this process, 2 schools have successfully completed the process that we have set forward. I'd like to start out talking a little bit about World Compass Academy. World Compass is proposing to build a K core knowledge charter school with several foreign language options, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Mastery-based learning, positive school culture, and research-based challenging curriculum. Our recommendation is a conditional approval. I want you to understand a little bit about this. We've done this in the past. We found this to be a very strong addition to our process as we've gone through, because we said we've got very good applications here, but there's still things that we believe that need to be addressed before we can go forward and approve this, before the board can approve this. First of all, we believe that by September 13th, we need a minimum of 350 intent to enrolls. By the end of the January open enrollment period, World Compass needs to have 276 full-time equivalent students, FTEs. To let you know how we get these numbers, we back into them. We send budget numbers to Bonnie and her people. And guys, I gotta tell you, this is an exhaustive process. This isn't something that we do casually. They've said, okay, in order to make a minimum budget, what is the minimum number of kids that they could take to run a successful, financially successful school within that area, and then we back into that number. So we came up with 276 full-time FTEs for this school. The WCA will submit to the board before February 14th, 2014. Now this is a little bit different than we've done in the past. A lease agreement that designates a location. They've targeted right now a South Castle Rock to central Douglas County area. The locations are always a little bit flexible because, to be honest, the way property is in Douglas County, it's not easy to get spots. And they need to do that in a place where they can be successful. And an approved traffic plan for an appropriate charter school facility. This is, we've taken this to a different level. We believe this is a safety feature, and I think by being a good neighbor with municipalities around us and working to have a sound traffic plan that's part of what they're doing, we can ensure the safety of our students on or before August 1st, 2014. We always require a detailed budget. This is a final budget because all the preliminary budgets are great, but Bonnie's crew must okay a budget by spring of 2014. Finally, we always require that they have a school leader in place in the spring of the year that they're going to open. What I'd like to do now is have Kendra introduce a couple of people from World Compass Academy.
One of the founding board members is Bethany Merkley.
Thank you for taking the time to meet with us this evening. My name is Bethany Merkley, and I'm the steering committee president of World Compass Academy. I have Christina Poehler with me this evening, who is another World Compass Academy member, and in the back we also have Alicia Herrera, Yannick Eimhoff, Chung Ho Woon, and Adrian Tang. Both my husband and myself attended school in Douglas County, and this district is very special to us. My husband was a student of Acres Green Elementary, Fox Creek Elementary, Sandhill Elementary, Crest Hill Middle School, and Highlands Ranch High School. At these schools, he was taught to love learning and had many formative experiences, which helped to shape and mold him into the man he is today. As a newcomer to Douglas County, my senior year of high school, I was greeted by amazing teachers and a unique educational atmosphere that challenged me to succeed and welcomed me for who I am. Our school at Highlands Ranch High School was also special to us because it was the place that we met and fell in love. But now as adults, parents, and community members, we are excited by the opportunity to continue and engage in this exceptional education system. Our proposed charter school, World Compass Academy, is a school that will meet the high educational standards of our community while also providing new opportunities. World Compass Academy is committed to preparing students to be world leaders through 4 founding principles. First, World Compass is committed to a positive school culture, enabling students to develop a self-confidence to take educational risks and to the development of the character of true leaders. Both instruction and social interaction between students and faculty will work towards developing these life skills. Second, World Compass believes in individualized education. Using Bloom's educational philosophy of mastery-based learning, students will be able to develop areas of weakness and soar past normal expectations in areas of strength. At World Compass Academy, mastery-based learning is evident in cross-grade ability grouping, flexible level progression every 12 weeks, careful monitoring of learning targets, and a strong home-school partnership. Third, World Compass is committed to providing the academic foundation needed for lifelong learning. Our challenging research-based curriculum includes core knowledge, Singapore math, FOSS, science, and Spalding phonics programs. All these curriculum elements are already in place in both charter and neighborhood schools in Douglas County and have produced great educational results. Fourth, World Compass provides the opportunity to provide proficiency in Mandarin Chinese, French, or Spanish. At World Compass, foreign language begins in preschool and continues through middle school, with 45 minutes of daily immersion learning, allowing students to leave World Compass with ability in at least one foreign language. As the word continues to spread, we are finding more and more families excited about these educational opportunities for these children. Moreover, with board representation from Switzerland, Canada, and Malaysia, we find our supporters represent the wide variety of cultures and backgrounds that make up Douglas County. We know that Douglas County School District and World Compass Academy is a powerful partnership, and we look forward to working with you and continuing to be part of the memories and joys of learning in this community, a beloved home for our family and for many others. Thank you.
Now, do you have any questions?
Well, I just wanted to know who your guest is here.
This is my son Xavier.
He slept through the whole thing.
Yep, he's a good kid.
Well, good luck to you, and did you have some additional comments you wanted to make?
No, not at all. Just
Okay. We'll see if other board members have questions. I just have a few comments. We wish you the best of luck. We have an excellent staff to work with in the charter school area. We have a reputation for being a very charter-friendly school district, but I always tell folks at the same time we have very rigorous standards. We're not interested in charter schools failing because it hurts the entire movement. So we work with them along the way to make sure they have the tools and are truly prepared to be up and running. We, last month, actually it was earlier this month, we actually received, Douglas County School District received the top award from the Charter School League for Colorado of the school district, the school district in the state which has the most charter-friendly process of working with charter schools. And so we're very proud of that award, but at the same time, we want to make sure things are up and running. So what are your thoughts on the timetable for getting those interested parties? It was 300, was it Pat, 315 by September?
Yeah, we have just over 200 right now. And we found that every event that we do that helps to get the word out, we have more and more interest. For example, the week that we did the Duck Derby, we had only, right here in Castle Rock, we had over 50 people sign intent to enroll forms. So we're finding that as people hear about it, it's continuing to grow. So our impression is that the more people hear about it, the more it spreads the word of mouth. We're going to continue to have growth in our intent to enroll.
Okay. And the location, are you looking at that?
Yeah, we've been looking at several properties in and around Castle Rock, and so we know within the timetable we have, we're going to be leasing a building. And so I guess we're continuing. Christina's head of our construction.
I'm head of the construction committee. We are continuing to pursue the various locations that we've been looking at and begin negotiations and see what fits within our projected budget.
Okay. All right. Director Williams has a question.
I love this concept. This is, I think, probably long overdue. to have something like this, especially for Mandarin Chinese. That's a great choice, I think. Tell me something, and by the way, I was doing my best to pay attention because he is so cute, my gosh. Everybody's gonna wanna have a baby if you look at him sleeping like that, but, yeah, I have 5 kids.
You have 5 children?
Yeah, that's correct. So what happens, so you said that the end goal was that you would have the student would be a master in one language?
They'd be proficient.
Proficient.
We don't expect our kids to walk out fluent. We think that that would require a total immersion experience.
Sure.
What we want is for the 45 minutes that they have of immersion to walk out proficient. So we have, one of the ways that we're tracking that is we're using the BAC, which is the test that they use in France to determine eligibility to work. We're using the American Teachers of Foreign Language tests to test Spanish and Mandarin so that we track that our kids, and we have goals for a certain level of progress when they graduate. We want them to be able to converse in the language. We don't expect that they'll be fluent. It would be nice if they were.
Sure, and I wouldn't be surprised if we found out that a lot will wind up being fluent. Well, what happens if you have a student, it's a K-8, you have a student, starts out French and goes K-4 and reads the history books and doesn't like the French people, and decides he wants to switch over to be speaking Spanish or whatever. How do you handle that first year with all those different, because you're talking about 9 grades. Would you touch on that just a little bit?
Well, our elementary students are locked. Once they choose a language, we're locking them into that language throughout the course of elementary. In middle school, throughout middle school, they'll have the opportunity to choose a different language if they want to. But we realize that we might have new students coming in. And so, because we believe that immersion is the best approach, immersion within that 45-minute block, we're gonna throw them in cold. They're gonna hear it every single day, just like all the other kids are. However, we do, one of the things we provided for in our charter and in our budget and planning was to have an after-school language lab. So a kid that comes in late, a kid that's struggling with that language has the opportunity to stay after school at no cost to the parents and work with our language teachers in the after-school language lab to help continue to develop those skills.
Okay, so talk to me about math.
Mm-hmm.
How's math being taught in this environment?
Math will be.
It's being taught in English.
It's being taught.
It's taught in English.
Yeah, the language, the 45-minute language block is like an elective, you could call it. They're not covering math, they're not covering language arts, they're not covering the state core and our curriculum standards. It's an enhancement to help prepare them to be better global citizens.
Gotcha. True. Thank you, guys.
Any other questions or comments? All right. Good luck. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
For taking time to present. Before we go to the next, well, actually, why don't you finish with the charter school segment? I'm sorry.
Are we going to have an action on this, or are we going to do action together?
Oh, okay. You want to do each one?
Each one.
Okay. Let's then go ahead and approve the district staff recommendation to give a provisional approval to the world-class,
Conditional approval to, this is World Compass Academy.
World Compass Academy Charter School conditional approval. Do I have a motion for that? Motion by Director Williams, seconded by Director Mendoza.
Well, that on the table, I do have a question. So I just want to reiterate that for clarity, what conditional approval recommendation means. And so we've outlined a number of conditions. This is for not just this one, but the next school we'll hear from as well. And I would suspect the pattern we might continue in the future if we do a conditional approval. And that is, we set out all these conditions, but if any of them are not met, then the approval never happened. And we go back and have to remedy those, or?
In the past, this isn't the first time we've had conditional approval around this. For example, with one of our former charters, they came in and they couldn't necessarily meet the conditions of the contract as stated. They came back and renegotiated and pushed the deadlines out to an area where they could be successful, and we could work with them to make that happen. But I guess I want to indicate very strongly, they had to meet the conditions. These conditions are not set to go around at some time. What we have adjusted is time frame. But we, as President Carson talked about earlier, quality is very, very important to us. They must meet the conditions. We'll be flexible with it in terms of happening, but it's too important for our kids in order to provide them with a quality charter experience in terms of what they're doing. So we don't bend on that. We'll bend on some time frames, but the conditions are the conditions.
Then will we see at a subsequent time that another report that the conditions have been met, and then therefore, so really this is a preliminary, or the first step of what could be a couple of them
Yes.
before the final steps are made, including
Absolutely.
a number of the entities. What you've already done with a number of the applications you received, and the two we're hearing from tonight, is vet them for readiness. I would say, with one to open in 14, one to open another time. Some others that originally applied no longer at this point in that position. So that other steps that would normally take part in this 18-month process that have not yet occurred those are the things that are being outlined in the conditional approval process, correct?
Absolutely. We initially received, I believe, 6 letters of interest at our first. We had 4 applications come in. And these other applications, if they choose to come forward again in the future, that's fine, but they still have to meet the same quality standards that we had talked about. We felt at this point in time, we felt comfortable in bringing forward these 2 applications for your approval.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm just trying to make clear that, at least for me as a board member, we're trying to align the expectations and align our reliance on your team and the superintendents ultimately in providing us a state of readiness for the applications that have come forward, and then at such point when we're ready to get final approval, we'll know all the ducks in a row, all the checks have been completed.
Well, I believe Kendra and her huge staff of 1 have done a tremendous amount of work around this, but understand, this isn't done in a vacuum. We've gone to the curriculum people and talked about curriculum. We've gone to the business people and talked about the finances. We've gone to the leadership group and talked about the leadership that they have within the schools. So we've basically accessed all of the really, really strong resources that we have as a district to vet through this contract and then bring it forward to you.
In addition, some of the accountability committee and the long-range planning committee have roles to play in those parts of the process, and those will, whether they've already occurred or are going to occur, they will occur, and I want to make sure people are
Absolutely.
confident in that process.
When we talk about traffic planning, we don't have anybody that's more expert than the long-range planning committee to bounce that off of. Kendra and I aren't experts in that. We'll take it to the people that are and make sure that we get the best process that we can. It's really important that people understand that all of these parts of the process, then they all come together, and then we give that recommendation to you.
Thank you.
All right, then the motion on the table is a provisional approval of the World Campus Academy Charter School application.
Conditional.
Conditional.
Want to get
Not
that?
provisional, huh?
Yeah. Conditional approval.
Conditional. I bet the lawyers want to make sure I get that word right.
I bet they do.
I would have been fine with either word.
Oh, blame the superintendent.
All right, Benevento.
Aye.
Carson, aye. Larson.
Aye.
Mendoza. Aye. Williams.
Aye.
All right, congratulations. Now we have the Global Village Academy, Global Village Academy Charter School application.
This is a little bit more unique, I think, in terms of the way that we're dealing with this. Global Village is a replication. They have 2 campuses, one in Aurora and one in North Glen. So they've got 2 working sites. They're expanding to 2 sites this year. As a result of their expansion and the things that they're doing in their unique programming, they've asked to push their application out 2 years in order to make this happen. Global Village is looking to establish a charter school in North Douglas County. This is a true language immersion school. They learn core content through English and language immersion in Spanish, Mandarin, Chinese, Russian, French, German. And once again, I thank Judy Arneson for making things beautiful. We have all the maps up here tonight for that. Staff recommendation again is a conditional approval, but this is for a fall 2015-16 start date. Global Village has, because of their replication status, I want to let you know that within Douglas County, we allowed American Academy to replicate in somewhat of a speeded up process because we knew we had a done deal. We knew what we were getting within the process. When schools are asking to replicate from other districts, we require they go through the entire application because as an authorizer, we feel that we want to make sure that they meet Douglas County standards for quality. But by September 13, now if you notice, that's 2014. These guys have a little bit more time to be able to do their work. They want a minimum of 300 intent to enrolls. Once again, by the end of the January open enrollment period, they need to have 193 full-time equivalent students. They'll submit to our board, once again, a location. And once again, they talked about North Douglas County. It could be anywhere within that corridor up there. A lease agreement and an approved traffic plan, once again, designated for safety and good partnership within the municipalities by August 1st, 2015. They'll present a detailed budget by 2015-16. They'll hire a school leader principal on or before March 1st. Global Village and the district will discuss expectations. Right now, they're, as a member, within the two districts they have, we want to talk about where they're at within their performance framework and what kind of growth that we expect. We have done some comparison shopping in terms they've done very well within the schools within North Glen and Aurora, but we still feel that we want to carry that conversation forward and talk about what the expectations are within Douglas County. And also, Global Village will talk about non-compliance issues addressed and corrected by May 31st, 2014. They're in two areas. And because of their unique programming and things that they do as an immersion school, one is around ELL, so they're working through some issues with their authorizer concerning how they service ELL students. They're in an immersion school, so it's kind of a different situation, and I think they can talk about it a little better than I can. And finally, there's another piece that's about highly qualified teachers. When they're bringing in teachers from China, from different places, the process that they're using within that is very complicated with the state, and we believe within this 2-year period they'll have that all cleaned up by the time they get to us.
Christina Burton.
Why don't we do that, and then we'll...
We have an abbreviated video for you here that we'd like to show you about Global Village.
For me personally, the impetus for creating Global Village Academy had to do with the desire to have our adopted daughter from China maintain Mandarin, and we knew that culture comes with language. And so we wanted her to have that opportunity. And we started actually a pilot program in a private school to make that happen. And when we did that, what we heard again and again was from parents to say, I really want this kind of education for my child, but there's no way I can afford a private school. And that then caused us to shift our emphasis to creating a charter school. And what we wanted is we wanted that charter school to look like the world that is being born.
The whole aim of Global Village Academy is really global literacy. When we talk about global literacy, we're really talking about three components. Preparing students linguistically. We want them also to have intercultural proficiency. The third piece of this, of course, is academic excellence.
The reality is that the demographics of the United States are changing dramatically, and this country is going to be a very different country when my daughters have children than it is today.
We're just beginning to wake up to the urgency of what it means to be linguistically prepared for the world that we're going to live in.
When we talk about immersion and influencing a second language, a lot of people don't get it.
When you and I went to school as little kids, we took maybe half an hour Spanish twice a week or something like that. Global Village kids actually come to school and they learn reading, writing, and arithmetic in the target language. So the language learning experience is very natural. It's in the language, not about the language.
乱九声，鸡蛋掉水里水就比。
For young children, this is incredibly easy. You know, it doesn't hurt their brain. They just learn it.
Okay, give me madam, understand?
We know today that businesses and government, healthcare, etc., are asking for students who can compete in the 21st century. And again, they're very clear that that requires fluency in a second language, and it also requires 21st century skills.
Everyone here supports the curriculum, supports the students, supports each other, and every conversation starts with, what's best for kids? How do we make them 21st century learners?
Global Village Academy 是很好的学生。That means Global Village Academy is a very good school. It's very fun.
So thank you for allowing us to present before you this evening. We are genuinely excited to bring Global Village Academy to Douglas County. We know that you are a county that has many, many languages already. You have been leaders in this field in the state, and we believe that we can add to your portfolios of schools in a very unique way. I would like to begin by introducing one of our students, Hannah Burton. This is my daughter. She often gets tasked with this job, and I told her tonight, she didn't know she was going to do this till today. I asked her in the card, please write a brief introduction of herself, and she will share her writing as well as her language skills.
你好，我叫 Hannah， 我上 Global Village Academy 学校，在学校我学中文，我很喜欢中文，因为我可以找一个很好的工作。我也喜欢中文，因为我可以和中国人说话。中国吃的东西也是很好。我长大后我要去中国，我要看 The Great Wall Street。我最喜欢中文和中国。谢谢你听我说话，再见。
Thank you, Hannah. You want to take your writing over so that Ms. Nona can pass that around to everyone. Hannah is intermediate low in proficiency. We are an organization that is responding to the call, really a 2006 language initiative call by the federal government to address the critical need for languages to be learned by Americans, particularly languages like Mandarin, Russian, Hindi, Swahili, etc., Arabic. We are, in 2006, basically, the federal government said, if we do not get students to the level of advanced proficiency, we will not be able to do the global economics that we need to do, we will not have the defense systems we need to, and we will not be able to engage the world in the way that we really need to do that. So we are a proficiency-driven organization. When I talk about Hannah being intermediate low, that's equivalent to about a first-year high school student, roughly in terms of vocabulary in Mandarin. She will graduate with intermediate high language skills, which will prepare her to go to high school and take the AP exam in Mandarin by 9th grade. Typically, that would be a first-year college student, possibly a very high proficient high school student. Global Village Academy has been awarded over $2.5 million by the federal government. That does not include startup grants. That is purely a $1.4 million grant from the U.S. Department of Ed and over $1 million from the Star Talk program, which is funded by the National Security Agency. So yes, we do get checks from the Navy. A little odd as a school, but again, reasserting the critical need for languages like Mandarin, Russian, etc. We will offer 3 languages in this school, Mandarin, Spanish, and French. We would consider Russian, given some market analysis, because we know in South Denver there is a large Russian community that is constantly asking us to please offer Russian here. We currently offer Russian in our Northland program along with Mandarin and Spanish. We offer 3 languages always. We are really part of 2 reform efforts. One is around critical languages and one is around additive bilingualism for ELL students. We are, in fact, have had some interesting discussions around ELL students. We outperform the state in serving ELL students. They do amazingly well because when you don't stigmatize their language and acknowledge that in fact a second language is an asset, you ensure that they graduate with biliteracy in their heritage language. Maybe it's Russian, or maybe it's Spanish, or maybe it's Mandarin. You maintain that language while you teach them English. Europeans have been doing this for many years. In fact, they require 3 languages. What you in fact have is a student that's more successful. We all know that bilingualism and biliteracy ensures graduation rates, and it also ensures being hired. It's a much better way to go. And so we have had an issue in Adams 12 where they have a DOJ compliance. And they have wanted us to pull students out of our English program, or the Spanish program. For the Spanish program, we pull them out of the English 90-minute block that they have. But we go from 100% immersion in kindergarten to 50% by 3rd grade. For our kindergarten, 1st and 2nd, we would prefer to have them come out of Spanish and have some additional English. But because their model requires pull out of an English language block, they want us to do it the same way. So that's the compliance issue. Has been some very deep discussions with leading experts. Dr. Miriam Med is our immersion expert from the National Language Center. We had very deep discussions about this. So don't be alarmed by that. They are under DOJ compliance. They are on the front page of the State Department right now. Unfortunately, we are very sympathetic to that, and we do want to work effectively with them. But we have quite a different model. We are partners with Hanbang, the Department of Ministry for China. We do bring guest teachers directly from China. It's very hard to have them take the praxis test the day after they get off the airplane. Okay, so we work with them, and English, of course, is a challenge for them. They do pass with amazing rates, but it sometimes takes them, till November to do that. So we work very hard to do that. We have a very good track record of supporting them. We also are an International Spanish Academy. We have a partnership with the Embassy of Spain. We bought just under 20 teachers from Spain last year here. They stayed for 3 years to work with us in our different schools. So I'm going to stop there. I think there are many, many things I could tell you about our program. We do teach math. Singapore math is our math curricula. We teach that in the target language up to 7th and 8th grade. And then we do switch to English in recognition that we have to prepare and make sure they have that vocabulary, English vocabulary for high school. We also teach social studies and science in a partnership arrangement between the English teacher and the target language teacher, so that the social studies and science units are co-taught. They get it both, because that's, as Marzano points out, the heaviest vocabulary curriculum. And so you want them to hear all that vocabulary, both English and in the target language. So a very quick overview. There's lots I could talk about, but I will sort of open up to questions.
All right, we have some questions. Director Larson?
Fascinating. I have someone who works for a company, and before she took the job, she took 10 weeks upon graduation from college to spend in Korea under a State Department program where you go and immerse yourself and live in the community and learn the language and come back. And many of them then get trained in the State Department for many of the purposes you described, for national security or for global economics, to be able to converse. And so the State Department underwrites, I guess, what I call college-age adults going to do that. And so maybe by extension, we're seeing, in the younger generation. So I'm now seeing it again in a different form. I guess some of the question I have isn't so much to dive into all the particulars of the compliance, but just the general concept of, again, I know you stated, but restate, a kid coming into the program, is their instruction going to be primarily the target language, and then all the way up until 7th or 8th grade when you're starting to transition them to English? And do you have challenges that come with that in terms of their English proficiency, or well, I guess it depends whether you're a native English speaker or not, but maybe not. Maybe there's development that is absent if it's all one language or another. I'm just very curious how all that works.
So the typical student that comes in will have 100% in the target language of their choice. If they must know either the target language that they're going into, some level of proficiency, or English at some level of proficiency. So for example, if we get a student from China, say a adopted Chinese student that comes in, and they know neither English nor Spanish, they're not going to go into the Spanish immersion program. Okay, they're going to go into it. So if they are an ELL student that has minimum to no English skills. They are going to go into their native language, or, I mean, really that's it. That's the choice they have, unless we don't offer it. In which case, we're going to look very closely at cognates and other linguistic aspects of the language. Maybe they're Korean, for example. Probably go into, the Mandarin program, although they're very different languages. The kindergarten's going to have 100% of that target language. In first and second grade, they're going to have a 90-minute English literacy block. Our first and second grade teachers are literacy experts. That's all they teach. They teach 3 sections of that. They know intervention, they know corrective reading, and they do it in a very targeted way. We have very high expectations, particularly of those 2 grades. Our track record is very consistent with districts. So for example, in Aurora, where we have 63% on average, and I know compared to Douglas County, that doesn't sound very good, but remember we have 52% free and reduced lunch in our school, 48% ELL. Compared to the district, which is 44%, our students are performing in the top 15% of that district, and 65% of their instruction is in a language other than English. So our 3rd graders perform in the top, we beat any school in the district, and we have higher rates of low-income students and at-risk students in terms of that 15% than many of the other schools that we compare to. The world has demonstrated this is one of the most research-based models out there. Europe and Canada has extensive research around immersion. This is not experimental education. It is very counterintuitive to our fossilized brains as adults, because I can't learn Mandarin, okay, as easily as Hannah can learn Mandarin. She started at 5. Interestingly enough, with our Star Talk program during the summer, we're currently running our Star Talk language program. We're doing a Russian Star Talk. Many of our Chinese students are going into the Russian summer Star Talk program. They are catching Russian like that, because their brains are already, the neural pathways are very well worn to listen for sound discrimination, to listen for tones, to understand sound symbol relationships, etc. So they are already language learners. So there's a positive outcome. In terms of the impact on English, I know it sounds counterintuitive, but in fact, learning multiple languages does not impact learning English. What the research shows is that the year you introduce English, so like our kindergartens go 100%, they will enter 1st grade lag. It will happen. By the end of the 1st grade, they're almost equivalent. I've looked at it, I'm a principal for 13 years. My schools, they look exactly like all my schools. I've done inner city schools, and I've done high income school, Twin Peaks. I was principal there at Cornell School, very well known, high performing school. I've done both ends. Students look almost exactly, and the data looks very similar. So the impact on English is kind of a myth. It takes a little catch-up time because their brains do it twice as much, but it's a myth that it will impact them negatively. Long-winded, but I hope that answered your question.
Any other questions? All right, well,
Thank you.
all of these languages will be a fabulous addition to our school district. We need that, so good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
So now I'm going to take a motion for a conditional approval of the Global Village Academy Charter School. I'll make that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion by Carson, seconded by Williams. Is there any discussion? If not, I'll go ahead and call the roll. Benevento?
Aye.
Carson, aye. Larson?
Aye.
Mendoza?
Aye.
Williams?
Aye.
All right. Very good. Kendra and Pat, thank you. All right, before we go to the next item, the note was slipped to me that Roger Bianco missed the public comment, left briefly, and is back to make his public comment. So if you want to make your public comment, Roger, we'll give you your 2 minutes of fame. And even if you have anything you want to add about No Child Left Behind, go ahead. Because we haven't had much luck tonight on that topic.
Not my area of expertise, I apologize. Thank you graciously. I was watching my daughter's softball team try to eke one out. In the first game, they won all year. Don't know if they did it because I left early, so my apologies for running behind. But I just wanted to comment on something that I had noticed in the news about 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago, where the city of Chicago had to shut down about 50 schools. The reason for that was because of, the reason for that was because of enrollment issues, but then also the fact that that district runs about $1 billion budget deficit. So they've had significant issues financially. Now, what happens when a school closes is families have to scramble. And that's what thousands of families in Chicago are doing right now. Literally, parents are asking the school board how they're supposed to get their kids to school through unsafe neighborhoods. Now, we don't have that issue in Douglas County necessarily, especially the unsafe neighborhoods issue, but what we do have is a sound financial management program put in place by you all. So it helps me as a parent feel confident. I think you all are kind of a mirror image of what's happened in Chicago. And hopefully parents can take a good sense of confidence that you're holding cash, that you have a just-in-case fund, and that you're not spending to zero. If you spend to zero, you make us susceptible to things like what's happening in Chicago, and then options go away. So I just wanted to comment you on, or applaud you on being fiscally responsible and being a mirror image to the city of Chicago. Thanks, that's it. Really appreciate the effort. Thank you.
Thanks for those comments. I made similar observations earlier about the same things happening in the Philadelphia school district, where they have don't have the benefit of wise budgeting. Bonnie, I'm not going to let you off the hook. All right, back to the agenda. We've got some budget items actually now to approve. Budget resolutions. Speaking of Bonnie.
Yep, now it's time to introduce Bonnie for, she has several items on here, and she'll have, Bonnie, can we vote on these all together?
Absolutely.
So these can be voted on as a group, number 31, 2, 3, and 4, all related to the budget. Bonnie has a brief presentation, I always say that, but this time you're really going to be honest because it is brief, on the proposed adoption for the fiscal year, well, it's actually fiscal year 14 budget, and for the 13-14 school year. And this is not new information. This is the information we've been presenting as we built up to this. Mostly, she's looking at me like she may have something new in there, but I thought you covered pretty much all of it in the previous meeting. So, with that, Bonnie Betts.
Good evening. So just to quickly run through this, I wanted to present to you some changes that have occurred since we proposed the budget to you in May to today. So we've requested a student increase of the state of Colorado so that we can have funding starting in July for all of the students that we have reflected in Infinite Campus. So the proposed student increase back in May was 1,302 funded pupils. The adopted student increase that is reflected in these resolutions, as well as in the attached detailed budgets, is a total funded pupil count of 2,104 students. Those do include online student increases. So we are expecting $6 million of increased revenue as well as expense. This is our financial plan and budget for the 13-14 school year. It is attached to your board agenda. And so all of the detail surrounding just what I've presented is within this document. And all of those budget resolutions that Liz alluded to are all reflective of the detail in this budget document. So moving forward then, we'd really like you to approve all the budget for all funds, the budget resolution, appropriation resolution, use of beginning fund balance, as well as interfund borrowing, all of those resolutions. And then in addition, as we have done over the last 2 years, we are asking to approve a final budget revision for the current year. This budget revision is also attached to your board agenda item, and it includes everything that we expect reflective of our third quarter projections. So this, we feel that all the appropriation resolutions represent the maximum amount that we will spend, and so this will represent our final revised budget and will be reflected in our comprehensive annual financial report, which will be published, we're expecting in early December. So again, all of those appropriations are there for your approval, and our recommendation, of course, is that you approve them all. And that's all I have. We are prepared, if you have any specific questions, to pull up some of the detailed reports if you wish. However, we've been through the budget process numerous times this year, but I am absolutely prepared to answer any questions you might have.
Director Williams.
In light of the terrible fire that we had this last week, let's say a fire comes through, and we've seen, a couple of years ago, we had a fire come really, really close to Ponderosa in that area down there. What would happen if we were to have a school to burn down, which is obviously a very possible scenario? What financially, do we have fire insurance that would cover the entire replacement of a school? Would you talk to us about fire damage?
I expect that would be true, but I would really like to take this opportunity to bring up Bill Moffett, being that he's in charge of our facilities as well as our risk department, and I think he'd be more able
She's paying back the favor now.
We do have fire insurance.
And it's good fire insurance,
Does
right?
it cover everything?
Yeah, estimated replacement value in today's dollars.
That's including all the computers, books.
Again, the contents are estimated. We don't have that each year counted, but there's an estimate that we use to ensure that.
Right. Is that just through a private insurance company, or is there a?
Yeah, we have we're actually with a co-op, so we are insured through that co-op. So,
Gotcha. Do we have an idea if we were to lose let's say last week we were to lose an elementary school, how fast would insurance come in and we'd be able to start rebuilding?
well, it depends on the extent of the damage. If it's a total loss, we probably have to find another location that has students intended to rebuild.
I didn't mean to take this subject off. It was just I was curious to find out if we were completely covered financially on a, unfortunately, potential scenarios. Thank you.
Sorry about that, I wasn't quite prepared to answer that question.
It's quite all right.
Well, you want to run through real quick the raises and benefit increases that went out this year and how you see that potential for that in the budget year to come?
So we did do a 3-year financial projection. We revised the policy about 4 years ago to reflect a 3-year projection as opposed to the original required 5-year projection. Again, we're still in that time frame in history in which there's many, many fluctuations, and so going out 5 years seems not appropriate. It's a guess it's a true guess after the 3rd year. But we do have a projection included in the budget document for 13-14. So we've accounted for the ongoing 2% on average across our school system for all employees. We've put that through to next year, and then after that, we presumed that revenues from the state of Colorado would increase about the same rate that it increased this year, being somewhat hopeful but still conservative. So we anticipated that possibly we would be able to fund an additional 1% pay increase into the 2nd year, and then pay increases would be flat into the 3rd year. So we are growing these pay increases through the next 3 years. So just to remind you, we did award a 2% ongoing, on average, pay increase for all employee groups. On top of that, we did approve another 2% as a one-time pay on average, again, to be paid in September of the current year. We also absorbed the increases in medical benefit costs, as well as our 0.9% prescribed by statute increase in para. And that will be an ongoing expected increase for the next 5 years, 7 years.
I don't think that President Carson was asking about 5-year projections on any of those items, just wanting to go over the $200 per student increase at every school, the 2% on average ongoing pay increase, the 2% on average one-time amounts, which the reason we say on average is because they are differentiated. And Brian can answer any questions on that, but as you mentioned in your opening statement, if you include the para, the medical, the one-time and the ongoing money, up to 9% for highly effective certified staff who are below market. So those are all things included in this particular budget, including using some facilities, utilities dollars that we no longer need to budget and have been reallocated for ongoing safety and security measures to fund the new school marshal program. So those are some of the highlights of the budget that we are preparing to adopt here.
And in addition, we did include about $2.1 million for one-time pays to our high schools as well as our schools for innovation throughout the district.
Okay. Good work.
We're funding all high school student requests, even if they are above and beyond the allocation.
Okay. Any questions from the board members? So we should do each of these individually, correct?
You can do them all together.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to approve the 4 budget-related action items, which is number 31, the 2012-13 revised budget resolutions. Number 32 is the 2012-13 supplemental budget resolution. Number 33 is the 2013-14 financial plan and budget. And number 34 is the 13-14 adopted budget resolutions. So I'll make a motion to approve those 4. Do I have a second? Second. Motion by Carson, seconded by Mendoza. Benevento?
Aye.
Carson, aye. Larson?
Aye.
Mendoza?
Aye.
Williams?
Aye.
Excellent. Well, that's the last item on the agenda. And if anyone would like to submit comments in writing on No Child Left Behind, we'll take those. And I think before we adjourn, I think Director Williams has reminded us that we need to remember our neighbors just to the south and the tragedy they have had over the last week and a half. And so I'll just ask for a few moments of silence just to think of those folks who have lost their homes and several who died, and hope that that community is able to rebuild quickly. All right, thank you. Well, I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second? Motion by Carson, seconded by Larson. Benevento?
Aye.
Carson, aye. Larson?
Aye.
Mendoza?
Aye.
Williams?
Aye.
We are adjourned.